Hello, and thank you for joining me on today's podcast. And between the spreadsheets, I'm Stephen Englander as always, and I've got an acquaintance of mine, Patrick Lauruol. Patrick is a coach, and he deals surprisingly with startups. And I was just saying to Patrick before the show went live that so many websites, so many offerings out there talk to people as if they are startups, as if they've never been in business and they don't know what they're doing. And I found myself doing that until I suddenly read it and said, well, this is quite patronizing to people that have been in business for years. And everyone seems to sort of says, I'm going to be dealing with startups and I'm helping them get moving. But I've never really come across anyone that truly does work with startups unless it's some sort of government incentivized grant that come off Social Security and start your own business and will coach you, which has its value. But there's nothing like a proper coach coming along and saying, you want to be in business, this is how we do it. What do you think, Patrick? Have I said it right?
Fine. Yes, you're right. Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me onto your show. Gosh, startups, you're right. Oftentimes, the only support available is government-backed schemes. Sometimes there are university-backed schemes, accelerators. There are also corporate schemes, again, accelerators, and VCs even have accelerators as well. And they all want something from you. They want your IP or they want equity in your business, which is fine, if that's a trade-off that you're willing to make for your business. Separately, some loan or finance providers will also provide accelerators to support businesses to grow because they want to be able to provide a loan to that business, and then they earn the interest off of that.
So that's something you can help with people with as well, getting finance and guiding them that way. Yeah,
it is difficult. So I'm not a finance guy, but what I would help to do is to really ensure that there's as few holes in the business model or the presentation as possible, and that we're really focusing on finding the right financier or the right partner if it's going to be an equity partner. Because this kind of 2-slide pitch deck and then spray and pray, send the pitch deck to everyone doesn't work. You really need to match the investment criteria of the investor and have a viable business before they're going to put money down. And
we forget that one, don't we?
People do forget that, and I have seen people saying, look, where's the finance? I'm just leading to dead ends. They've talked to a lot of people haven't invested, which is a frustrating experience. But then turning the tables, it's like, well, why haven't they invested? Investors are business people. They want a return. They want to back a team which has proven themselves or seems like they have the qualities necessary to make this new venture work and to take their money and actually do something sensible with it. I could probably rant about that. I don't think it's fair.
No, go and have a rant. Have a good rant. Go on.
So go on. So what people say is we need X amount of million for our startup, and it's like, well, you probably don't. What you probably need is £50,000, and there's probably some really specific key bits of expenditure appropriate to the stage of your business that you're going to
I think that's the key point.
For.
Stage. Let's say stage again, because people they're looking at where in their heads they're a multi-million-pound organization, but stage. I like that. That's let's get that across to people. What do you need now? Don't be scared if it's more. Don't ask for more if you don't need more, or even say, can we have that now? But we're going to need this in 6 months' time or 12 months' time. Have I just stole your thunder?
Not at all. That's a really good point, and that's how equity rounds work. Starts with the friends and family. If you can't get friends and family to invest, or if you're not willing to put your own money in, probably investors won't be interested. If you do get seed funding, which is for the literally for the initial setup, that's great. And then just as a risk mitigation strategy for the investors, if they see that you've taken that seed money and you've used it sensibly and you've started to get some initial customers or some initial partners, depending on what the business is and how it works, then they'll put growth finance into it, and that's the accelerate or growth finance essentially for people that are scale ups or in the growth stage of.
When you talk about seed finance, are you talking about the initial stake, or are you talking about the seed finance that you can get tax relief on, or the lender gets? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So there are schemes, certainly in the UK. I'm sure they exist elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
The SEIS scheme, which is the Seed Enterprise. I think it's Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. You might correct me on that. And then there's a larger version of that, which is for larger amounts, which is the Enterprise Investment Scheme.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about seed capital. Generally, capital means money. Actually, it took me a long time to learn that capital just means money, and it's okay. No one's born knowing everything about finance.
Well, I get you there, this, because if you sort of ask a question like that, what's the capital of Greece? Do you know that?
Okay, right. So I'm going to guess Athens, but
it's about €5 at the moment. But sorry, just because of what you were saying. I know. Apologies out there, but it got the point, didn't it?
We're going to get some Greek venture capitalists phoning in saying, "Oi!"
I think they're imaginary anyway.
But I'm sure they're there. Someone owns those nice villas and the oil fields around Cyprus.
Yes.
So that's. So there are different stages to business. I think you've touched on that. There's the seed stage, which is all about who's your market, what type of products or services are we going to deliver to them, and creating or putting in place the necessary things to run your business. So it could be forming your company, creating your initial marketing materials, doing any kind of compliance things, getting the licenses you may need, getting insurances that you may need, possibly getting suppliers or partners on board. Then when you're ready, that's when you start getting your initial clients, and that's what I call the startup stage. So you're still kind of in the testing mode, where do people really want what you're offering? Are our marketing channels working? Our sales and marketing strategies, are they working? And you're just testing that out and testing your processes for delivering whatever it is that you do. So that's the sort of initial startup growth stage. Then comes the actual growth stage, and Stephen, I think you've been in this stage for a long time in your business, which is where you're operating. And there's different types of growth. There's revenue growth, which can be achieved in different ways. There's the company side, which again comes down to maybe having more staff or larger clients, or operating in more geographical location. And then finally there's the kind of maturation or decline stage, and several things can happen there. Ideally, a business gets sold to a willing buyer, or as is the case with the whole COVID thing, some industries or some businesses just go out of business. And there's all kinds of reasons for that, and oftentimes it's not actually anything to do with the business owner. I mean, in the case of hospitality and businesses with COVID, the legislation has changed such that they have to close down for public health reasons, and there's nothing they can do about it, or very little. So going back to the finance thing, well, companies don't always need seed capital. They might need growth capital. They might need to invest in machinery if they're a sort of manufacturing company, or they might need to bring on board extra staff, and there might be some costs associated to that, which, if they're a very financially successful company and prudent, they would save up for themselves before making those expenditures. However, you don't always have to. There are people who like to come in and lend you money to
and there's leasing
accelerate.
and things like that. Just let me just change from finance for a bit, because I think people sort of know that, and you've explained it very well. The big thing for small companies, though, the biggest thing that I've seen is, where do they get those first customers from? And even sometimes more importantly, where did they get the next wave? Because the first wave can come from mum, dad, or friends, but where do you get the second wave of repeatable customers? Do you have any advice for them there?
I do, and unfortunately, it's not going to be what people want to hear.
No, I knew you'd say that. Yeah,
it's all about testing what works. Now, there are some initial places that people will find out about you, which is today usually social media or word of mouth. It can be the traditional advertising, either on TV or radio. It can be interruption advertising on a channel like YouTube. You see the videos that pop up before the main video that you want to watch.
That interruption marketing? It disturbs what you're doing, and then it comes up. Yeah,
that's right.
And does that still work? Or does it annoy
yeah,
people? It does work.
It works and it annoys people. Another thing is partnerships, which I think a lot of people, certainly who have just started out, might not realise they can do. Which is, they could approach a company or an organisation that serves the same audience, and they can form a partnership and say, look, together, if we present what we do to our audience, it will create more benefit for our audience. And as a result, that partner organisation may officially co-brand their marketing and tell their audience about your business, because it's useful to them. And so again, that's a place where people might initially discover a new business, and that might look like being a link in their newsletter which they send out, or a shout out on their social media, or it might mean a mention to someone in conversation during the process of their work. With the client.
I don't know, I'd be surprised if you haven't read it. Stephen Covey, Habits of Highly Effective People.
I haven't read it. Believe it or not, I haven't read it.
I'll send you a copy. No, one of the 7 habits, one of the recommendations, he goes from like, stand on the shoulders of others, and stand on the shoulders of giants. Sorry, and this is what you're saying. Make the proper partnerships with people can really work. I mean, we've been trying to get Barclays Bank to work with us for ages, but they just keep swatting us away. But associate with the big boys, and sometimes you get put with them.
I mean, it doesn't have to be people who are bigger than you. It can be people who are smaller than you, but really have that focus, or where you know that you're going to be able to do something useful for their clients. Essentially.
You see, I've always done things like that because I'm fairly useless. I have to get people that know what they're doing.
Well,
you did say you're not useless, but find people better than me, but it's not difficult. So you talk about any successes you've had with anyone. You don't need to give names unless you want to. What's a good story? It's a hard one, isn't it?
It is a hard one,
because they're all successful.
Do you know what? They're not all successful, and it would be.
Let's take one that hasn't. Take a real failure and why they failed.
There's a few to choose from, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
pick the one you don't like.
Oh gosh. I'm not. That's a tough one, because I see merit. I see merit in different things. I'll talk about one which was difficult for them, and then I'll talk about what they're doing right as well.
Okay.
So essentially, they had an idea and they set about setting it up. We did some work together to explore how to go about doing that, and then they went and they tried that, and it didn't work. So then we regrouped and we said, okay, well, how can we change this? And they failed to change. That was the thing. They just carried on trying to do the same thing. It didn't work the first time, so why is it going to work the second time? And it wasn't for a lack of effort on their part. Now, what they have done, which is really good, is they've persisted. and they've managed to get some really, really credible people on board who have had a lot of success already in equally difficult businesses. So as a result of that, fast forward 4 years, they're actually starting to make some headway now. But it took 4 years, and a lot of businesses would be long gone out in that time. Now they
persevered.
They were independently financed. Essentially, they were working throughout the process in addition to working on their own thing. So in my opinion, the mistake was not looking at their business model and saying, this bit isn't working. How can we, as you said earlier, stand on the shoulders of giants to accelerate our access to the thing that we need so that we can actually take off. The thing is if a person has a vision of what they want to do, oftentimes, and I'm guilty of it myself, we're set on it. Now, a company like, say, Tesco or Asda, they might look at their market and they might look at their data and they say, oh, people are buying this product, let's bring more of it in. They're cynical. They don't have a vision. They have a desire for cash in the bank account, nothing more. So they do what the data says. They're really money-led, whereas other people are vision-led, and it gets them into trouble. And there's a balance. You can balance both. And
well, they say that if your goals involve anything with a zipper, a wallet included, then it's not a great goal. Sorry about that, but it does come out from time to time.
Is that in between the spreadsheets? Is that
yeah, if it's got a zipper. So think of what's got a zipper, a wallet, trousers, perhaps. You know, it's not a great goal. But it's what most people do pursue.
That's what most startups pursue. I think some established businesses, and this is where the growth portion of my sort of title comes in. So startup and growth. They'll still be vision led. They'll have had some success, so they'll have had customers, or they have customers on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
But then they have let's say beliefs that say, I'm not allowed to do this because I'll be a bad person if I do that.
Yeah.
And it's not true. Actually, maybe there's a way of tweaking slightly what they do to match their core values, to match their vision.
Their internal blueprint. Do you know that one? Everyone has their own blueprint, their own, that's to be made to feel that that's what they should be doing. And they've got their own internal plans, their own things that motivate them, things that make them happy, things that they're born with. But then you've got people, parents, friends, spouses, advertising, telling people, no, this is what you should be doing. And the further away that is from your own blueprint, the more clashing you're getting, and the more you're never going to be happy, no matter how successful you are. Do you know where I learned that from? I went to a course about 15 years ago to see Anthony Robbins, and it was something he was talking about, and it stuck with me because I think I was a bit guilty of that. I wanted to be a writer, but became an accountant because that's where the money is. So, nice Jewish boy would follow the path of money. So I like, this is why I like the media world, because this is the world I enjoy.
I'm going to change tack here and pick up on what you said about Anthony Robbins.
Yeah.
I love Anthony Robbins.
Yeah.
And I hate him.
Oh.
I like what he has to say, and I've learned some stuff. I've essentially leveled up by following some of his advice. But I've seen people who have spent 10 grand to join some of his things.
Yeah.
Week-long experiences.
Right.
And then the motivation wears off within 3 months, and they're 10 grand down. Now imagine what you could do in certainly in a small business with 10 grand. You could hire a PA. You could put money into advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
You could develop some kind of partnership and put some money into R&D.
Yeah.
You could hire services like an accountant to help.
I totally agree. You need someone to manage. It cost me about £800, and then they discounted it to about £650, and that was for 3 days. I think it cost me £150 for the hotel. But
I think if a person's got the available money,
I wouldn't have spent 10 grand.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. 10 grand. I mean, again, another way of looking at it would be to say you could have a personal tutor in, say, 3
Yeah,
topics, plus
yeah,
books bought new,
yeah, yeah,
plus a coach that helps you in addition to do the practice, and it would come to less than 10 grand.
oh yeah. Well, I've actually got, he a few years ago brought out a whole series of CDs on his mastery course, and I actually bought it. I think it was about £60 or something, and that was a good few years ago, and I still haven't got around to listening to it because I'm now on board as I move on to the next thing. And I've read a few of his books, and I quite like. Well, I read one and started a thing over and over. You know, get out there, positive mindset, care about what you're doing, all these types of things, which is a lot of common sense. But sometimes if people can put that message to you in such a way that it sticks with you, then that's great. Maybe you've got to bang the head against the wall if you can, before it does stick in. But I've talked about purpose a bit as well. I do believe in it. So you know, it does keep us going. Yeah.
And
Um,
that's
yeah.
actually a good thing, because people get stuck. They get stuck in a rut. And as you were talking about the blueprint there, people get stuck in their blueprint. They don't realize that they're more than that, and they can actually make amendments to continue the blueprint analogy. It might be an original blueprint of the building, but you can build extensions, or you can knock down things, and you can alter the fabric of that building, and by extension, the blueprint itself will change, and you can end up with a nice place, essentially.
Because reality is what's in here, so you can change it. Do anything. This is the difference between a coaches and accountants. Coach see that reality is in here, and we can think our own destiny. But someone's got to measure the numbers, and that's where we come in. That's why we work very well with coaches, because they go out there and pull, and guide them and encourage them and push them, and we just measure the results and keep the tax bill to a minimum.
Again, there's something I can say on that. So some services are essential, and they're essential by law. So if you're a limited company, you have to have audited accounts. So I think you can correct me on that, but essentially an accountant needs to look at the accounts that are submitted to Companies House for the tax filings at the end of year.
There always a criteria for that, but yes, essentially, it depends on company size and asset base. But yeah, I mean, the bigger you get, the more you need someone more professional checking the figures. And even if it's not a legal requirement, it makes sense to have somebody that knows what they're doing this.
That you've highlighted an area I need to read more on.
Well, I think we can all say that.
More on.
Well, this is why I work well with coaches and all sorts of things, because I'm not a master of everything. I've got after 40 years in business, you pick things up, but my real expertise is in general business overview. But I'm not a coach. You'll get into things I would never get into, and you'll encourage people in ways that I'd be, oh God, what are you doing? Whereas you'll encourage them. And I make sure I'm aware of the overview, because I do work with people like yourself, and I do think people should be talking to people like yourself, especially if they're starting off in business, because like you say, what idiot would go and spend £10,000 with Anthony Robbins when you can read his book? I mean, I love Anthony Robbins. I actually met him. I shook hands with him. That was 15 years ago. I've never washed that hand since, but but yeah, yeah. So we get the point. Anyway, I think I've been signalled that we're running out of time. So I'm going to thank you very much for coming, and I hope to be seeing you a lot more in the future. And good luck with everything that you do. And if you do get anyone that is having some troubles with tax or whatever, I'm always there for your people if they do want a bit of guidance. I know you do some workshops, don't you? Just before we go, you do some workshops in town and whatever. So by all means, if you do want to come to one of Patrick's workshops, contact him at the details coming up soon. And if you want to contact Patrick via me because you're too shy, and I'll put you onto Patrick. And if you want to invite me, I'll come along to one of your seminars and make sure people are doing the tax returns right. So, but again, now while we're here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please join one of my coaching groups where we've got some great coaches from all over the world coming in and sort of mentoring and guiding. And even if you don't feel you can learn anything, join it and give some advice. It's a great networking group as well. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next session. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.